Paragraph 19 has to do with the law of God, and it does follow on from the previous chapters on the preservation of the saints and assurance of salvation. God gives us His law as a gift of grace too. Even the first giving of the law, called the covenant of works in the first paragraph here, was ultimately a gift of God's grace. God told Adam not to eat of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil so that he would not die. And sure enough, when Adam did forsake God's law, he did die spiritually. Bad things came into his life. Bad things came into this world. God says throughout His Word, especially in Deuteronomy, that He gives us His laws so that life will go well with us. There are three kinds of laws outlined in this chapter and three uses of those laws outlined in this chapter as well. The three kinds of laws are moral, ceremonial, and civil. The moral law is the Ten Commandments. The two tables of the Ten Commandments. The first table, the first four commandments, have to do with loving the Lord our God with all our heart, soul, mind, and strength. The second table of the Ten Commandments, the last six commandments, have to do with our duty to our neighbor, how to love our neighbor as ourselves. And that moral law, those Ten Commandments, continue on through all ages. They are applicable to us today. They're applicable to us as Christians. But in paragraphs 3 and 4, there are two other kinds of laws in the Old Testament that have passed away. The ceremonial laws, that is, all the ritual laws, all the commandments for sacrifices and for the liturgical year and the seasons and so forth. Those, of course, passed away with the coming of Christ, the last Lamb, who is the fulfillment of all of those anticipatory rites of the Old Testament. In paragraph 4, it says that God also gave His Old Testament people, the theocracy, the civil laws, how they were to practice community health and how they were to judge cases and so forth. And those passed away with the theocracy. But the moral law, as I said, continues. That's what paragraph 5 says. And it continues on even for Christians. It functions as a guide for us by which we might live in gratitude and grateful response to the grace we have received. By the way, those civil laws and those ceremonial laws were not divorced from the moral law. They were just practical applications of the Ten Commandments. And so they serve in that way for us to help us find how the Ten Commandments practically apply in our lives. They give us ideas for how we might put them to practice in preserving the good of our neighbor and for how to preserve a just society. The three uses of the moral law are outlined in the final paragraphs, or the sixth paragraph of this chapter. They are to drive us to the end of ourselves and to Christ. That's what Calvin sometimes called the whip. The law serves as a whip to drive us to Christ for our salvation, for our enablement. And then the law of God serves as a restraint for us. It makes life possible in this world. It confronts sin in our lives and restrains us from the things that our flesh would want to do that would ultimately be self-destructive. And the third use of the law is to serve as a guide for us, a practical daily guide for how we might live in grateful response to the grace of God. The final paragraph is really good news. It tells us that when Jesus saves us, when the Holy Spirit moves into us and renews our wills, He gives us the ability to do what we're commanded to do. St. Augustine was fond of praying this prayer: Lord, command whatever you will, but give what you command.